What's up YouTube, Zero here, and today I have an absolutely amazing Rotom EX, Raikou EX, and Zeraora deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket. In this video, I'll go over the deck build that you can see on the left hand side of the screen. I'll talk about each of these cards individually, and I'll talk about why this deck is absolutely amazing and you should be checking it out. Before I get into it, I do want to say if you do enjoy this video, definitely give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more Pokemon TCG Pocket content. I do a bunch of other video games, so make sure you check those out as well. Thank you so much in advance for doing so. Without further ado, it's time to talk about this deck. Now, Rotom is an extremely fun card. There are a lot of different deck opportunities with Rotom EX. It can be used in different troll decks, and I've seen various troll decks centered around Rotom. Some decks where Rotom is the only actual Pokemon in the deck, along with a bunch of different item cards. But why are item cards so useful when it comes to Rotom? Well, let's talk about Rotom EX's attack, Junk Spark. Now, for 2 electric energy, this deals 30 plus. This attack does 10 more damage for each item card in your discard pile. So if you have 1 item card in your discard pile, Junk Spark is going to deal 40 damage. If you have 10 item cards in your discard pile, Junk Spark is going to deal 130 damage. So the name of the game when it comes to Rotom EX is discarding, or at least utilizing, as many item cards as possible, because this is going to allow Rotom EX to deal as much damage as possible. So those decks in which Rotom EX is the only actual Pokemon just stack up the item cards, so those players can just go through the item cards, discard them into the discard pile, and allow Rotom EX to deal as much damage as possible, of course, depending upon how many item cards you are able to discard. Now, I didn't go that far. I paired Rotom EX with some cards that are very useful that will allow you to attack very quickly and catch your opponent off guard. This deck will still allow for Rotom to deal a decent amount of damage. Of course, not a Rotom EX and all item cards, but this deck can still allow you to deal a decent amount of damage really quickly so you can hit your opponent hard, catch them off guard before they can eventually evolve and implement their strategy. But if you look on the left-hand side of the screen, we can count up the item cards and see it's still a fair amount. Of course, X-Speed is an item card, and I have 2 of those. I have 1 Pokeball, so that's 3 item cards. 2 Potions, 5 item cards. 2 elemental switches, which goes up to 7, 2 lucky ice pops is 9, and 2 electric generators goes up to 11. So 11 times 10 is 110 damage, plus that 30 damage is going to allow Rotom, if I get through all of these item cards, to deal 140 damage, which is really nice. So now that we've talked about Rotom EX, let's talk about the other Pokemon that I pair with Rotom EX. Now, Rotom EX, I have Raikou EX and also Zeraora. I'm going to start with Raikou. Now, Raikou has sort of been left on the back burner in terms of electric type decks. There are 3 legendary dogs. The other 2 are utilized a lot. Entei is utilized a lot. Suicune is utilized a lot. Suicune is fantastic for water type decks. Entei is great for fire type decks. You find those 2 in their respective decks almost all of the time. However, there are a lot of electric decks without Raikou. Raikou has the same ability, but you don't find it in as many electric decks as you find the other 2 legendary dogs in their respective decks. Raikou is still a very good card and really provides a lot of benefits for this deck. Now, the ability, for those of you who don't know, is Legendary Pulse. At the end of your turn, if Raikou EX is in the active spot, you draw a card. So this is a way you can get through your deck more quickly, you can get those item cards into your hand, and you can start utilizing those item cards. Of course, 2 X speeds. For those of you who don't know what X-Speed is, it lessens the retreat cost by 1. So if you have Raikou in the active spot, which has a have a 2 retreat cost, you can utilize 1 X speed to get that retreat cost down to 1, or utilize both of them to get that retreat cost down to 0. But Raikou EX is great to put in that active spot, to draw those cards, allow it to eat up some damage while you're just drawing as many cards as possible, hopefully getting Rotom EX on the bench and getting through your item cards. So Raikou's great just for its ability. However, Voltaic Bullet, which is its attack, is still pretty good. It hits for 60 damage for 2 electric energy, and you can also do 10 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Being able to do damage to your opponent's bench is always going to be useful. Part of the reason why I pair this deck with at least one Cyrus that you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, one of my favorite cards, one of the best cards in the game, part of the reason why I pair it with Cyrus is because you can pair it with Voltaic Bullet, hit Pokemon on your opponent's bench, bring those Pokemon to the active slot, and finish them off. Whether it's with your Rotom EX, whether it's with your Raikou EX, you could recognize a Pokemon on your opponent's bench that's going to evolve into a really good Pokemon. Say we're facing a Mega Lucario deck, and I see a Riolu on my opponent's bench. I hit my opponent's Riolu with Voltaic Bullet. Their Riolu goes down from 60 to 50 HP. Next turn, they're not able to evolve, so I utilize Cyrus, bring that Riolu into the active spot, and finish off the Riolu, so my opponent doesn't have the opportunity to evolve into the Mega Lucario. So being able to hit your opponent's bench is always going to be worthwhile. Raikou is great for that. It deals a little bit of damage, it pairs well with Cyrus, and you can finish off Pokemon, weakened Pokemon, because you're hitting that Pokemon on the bench. Your Rotom can finish off those weakened Pokemon that your Raikou has been dealing a little bit of damage to, chipping away while that Pokemon is on your opponent's bench. So it's a really great card, especially because of the card pull. You're getting all of those item cards out from your deck into your hand, so you can utilize them for Rotom. Now I want to talk about Zeraora, the last Pokemon in this deck. And of course, Zeraora is a phenomenal Pokemon for a lot of different electric decks. It really allows for you to get that energy draw really quickly in terms of your electric type decks. Now Zeraora, for those of you who don't know, has an ability, Thunderclap Flash. This is a phenomenal ability. At the end of your first turn, you take an electric energy from your energy zone and you attach it to Zeraora. So now, regardless of if you get the first turn or the second turn, if Zeraora is on the playing field, it's at the end of your first turn, so it doesn't matter if you go first or you go second. It's just the end of your first turn. If Zeraora is on the bench, you can draw an energy from the energy zone, an electric energy from the energy zone, and put it on Zeraora. If you have 2 Zeraoras, you get 2 energy onto the playing field quickly. This can work well because you have Raikou, Rotom, and Zeraora, all that require 2 energy to start attacking. So if you get the first turn, by your second turn, you can attack. If you get the second turn, still by your second turn, you can attack. So regardless of what turn you get, if you're able to get Zeraora and you get that elemental switch, you can start attacking. Or if Zeraora is in the active spot, you don't need the elemental switch, Zeraora can start attacking. So really by your second turn, you can start attacking thanks to Zeraora and an elemental switch. And what's great is that elemental switch is an item card that you can utilize and get that extra damage for your Rotom EX. So Zeraora is phenomenal because you get the first turn. Let's say you get the first turn, your opponent gets to equip energy first. If you have Raikou in the active spot, which deals 60, Zeraora on the bench, you got the first turn, so your opponent gets to equip energy first. You still get that 1 energy onto your Zeraora at the end of your turn. Your opponent can't evolve by the end of their turn because they got the second turn. You have elemental switch, You put an energy from your energy zone onto Raikou on your second turn. You elemental switch the energy up from Zeraora. And now your Raikou can hit for 60, hit for 10 on the bench, and you can handle a lot of basic Pokemon with Raikou's 60. So that's really great. That's why I love Zeraora as a part of this pairing, because you can utilize it with Elemental Switch and hit pretty quickly with your Pokemon in this deck. So I love Zeraora as a part of this deck. So those are the Pokemon, only 3 different Pokemon, 2 of each cards, but they really work well together. Raikou for that card draw, so you can get through your item cards really quickly. You can get them into your hands. Zeraora to allow for the extra energy generation. And of course, Zeraora pairs well with some of the other cards I have in this deck, particularly Elemental Switch. So I've talked about Elemental Switch a little bit, but for those of you who don't know, I will tell you what it does. You get to move either a fire, water, or electric energy. Of course, in this deck, it's going to be electric, from one of your benched Pokemon to your active Pokemon. So that's how Elemental Switch works. I gave you a scenario as to when it can work and really help you out, which is why I absolutely love it. It allows you to attack pretty quickly with some of these Pokemon. Next, I've already talked about X-Speed, a really great card for this deck because Raikou has a 2 retreat cost, and of course, it can help you save energy in the long run. Imagine if Zeraora you get in the active spot on your first turn. You can utilize X-Speed, since Zeraora only has a 1 retreat cost, to save your energy, move Zeraora to the bench, move a Pokemon from your bench to the active spot, and then Elemental Switch that energy up. Now you've utilized 2 item cards, you power up your Rotom even more, and you get to save that energy instead of utilizing it for a retreat. So I absolutely love X-Speed in this deck. It's a phenomenal card to pair in a Rotom deck. Pokeball, I do have only 1 Pokeball. I actually like the other cards a little bit better, especially because you have Raikou in that active spot. You're drawing cards pretty quickly, so you may not necessarily need 2 Pokeballs. So I only have 1, when I have other cards to kind of keep my Pokemon alive a little bit longer or attack a little bit quicker. Cards that I can get through pretty quickly. Couple of healing agents, 2 potions, which are going to heal 20 damage from Pokemon, and then Lucky Ice Pop, which has been around for a while, a great card. But for those of you who don't know, Lucky Ice Pop, you can heal 20 damage from your active Pokemon, so similar to Potion, however, has a little bit better of an ability, if you will, or a little bit better of an effect. You flip a coin. If it's heads, you get to put it back in your hand. If it's tails, it goes to the discard pile. Now, you do have to watch out for Lucky Ice Pop, because remember, Rotom only gets that added attack damage if the card is in your discard pile. So if, let's just say your Rotom is in the active spot and you only have 20 damage on you, if you utilize Lucky Ice Pop to heal that 20 damage, and then you flip for heads and it goes back into your hand instead of the discard pile, you don't get the extra damage from Lucky Ice Pop, because Lucky Ice Pop is in your hand and not the discard pile. So it's just something to be aware of, that if you want the extra damage, utilize Potion instead of Lucky Ice Pop. But I have Lucky Ice Pop here just to heal up my Pokemon a little bit more, to keep them alive a little bit longer. This deck does not have a lot of HP, so the goal of this deck is to kill my opponent before they can get their Mega Lucario or Mega Altaria onto the playing field in attacking, because once that's happening, it's going to be very hard to defeat my opponent. Raikou only has 130 HP. Rotom only has 120 HP. Zeraora only has 90 HP. So hard-hitting Pokemon, if they are ready to go, are going to hit this deck very hard, and you're not going to like it. So you really want to get the deck going as quickly as possible before your opponent gets their Mega Lucario, Mega Altaria, Miraidon. You don't want your opponent to get those cards going, because once they're going, it's gonna have a very difficult time defeating those type of cards. So next, I do love Electric Generator because it's similar to Zeraora. Zeraora does guarantee that electric draw after your first turn if you have it on the playing field. Electric Generator, you can try and get an extra energy regardless of the point in the game you are. You flip a coin. If heads, you take an electric energy from your energy zone and you attach it to one of your benched Pokemon. Of course, this does require a little bit of luck because you got to flip for a heads, but if you have a 50-50 chance, you have 2 electric generators in this deck, you still have a good likelihood, since you're flipping 2 coins, that one of them is going to be heads. You have a 50% chance that one of them is going to be heads, 25% chance that both of them are heads, and of course, 25% chance that neither of them are heads. So that's just something to note. But it's a really good card. Again, another one that you can pair really well with Elemental Switch. You flip for a heads, you get that energy on your benched Pokemon, then you utilize Elemental Switch to shift that up to the active spot. So again, that's another dual item draw card where you can utilize one item card and then the next item card to give your Rotom 20 extra damage. So I love that pairing as well, especially for Rotom. Next, a couple of cards that I absolutely love or are necessary. Professor's Research, you draw 2 cards. This is almost necessary in most decks. You want to get those cards from your deck as quickly as possible. You want to get those item cards. You want Rotom to be as powerful as quickly as possible because, like I said, you're trying to go through your opponent's basic cards or the cards before they get to their ultimate state. There are certain cards that just hit so hard that you're not going to want to deal with. Mega Lucario, Mega Altaria, these are Pokemon that can really hit like a truck, and it's going to be very hard to take them out because you're going to need 2 turns to kill them, and by that point, they may have already gotten 1 point, and once they take out one of your other EXs, it's over. So you don't want to have to worry about being hit by one of those Pokemon. You want to take them out quickly. So we want to take them out. We want to get our cards out of our deck as quickly as possible into our hand so we can power up our Pokemon enough so we're hitting really hard really quickly, or at least hard enough really quickly where we're taking them out before our opponent can evolve into their Mega Pokemon, the Pokemon that can deal a lot of damage. Cyrus, I already mentioned earlier, but Cyrus is a phenomenal card. You get to take a Pokemon that has already been damaged from your opponent's bench and put it to the active spot. This is a great way to either finish off a card that you've already been dealing damage to, or just taking out a Pokemon that hasn't evolved yet. Like I mentioned earlier, you can take out a Raikou, you can take out a Swablu, you can take out one of those basic Pokemon that evolve into a very good Pokemon early on so your opponent can't evolve. So it's a really good strategy. Your Raikou's hitting the bench, you have Cyrus there to bring that Pokemon to the active spot, and then you finish them off so you don't have to worry about them evolving into that Mega Lucario or Mega Altaria. But this is the deck. It is a really great combination. I've won a lot of games with this deck. Rotom is a very fun, very funny card. Can be used in troll decks. I've faced a couple of them. I've also faced some pretty good Rotom decks that, like this combination, can work really well. Like I said, this deck can go toe-to-toe with some of the best, but it's going to deal with, can I hit these Pokemon quickly enough so I don't have to worry about being hit hard? Because this deck does not like being hit hard. There are certain Pokemon that can survive a very powerful hit. This deck is not one of them. None of the Pokemon have a lot of HP, and I have no cards in this deck to increase the HP. I just don't see it as being worthwhile because I'd rather the item cards to utilize either to hit quicker so I can take my opponent out quickly, or to be able to power up my Rotom. Either hit quickly or power up my Rotom or implement my strategy a little bit quicker. That's why all of these cards in this deck work really well. They really gel well with each other. But let me know in the comments section what you think of this deck. Have you tried something similar? Is there a card or cards that you would put in or take out of this deck to make it even better? Let me know in the comment section. This is a really fun deck. You're going to win a decent amount of games with this deck. You just don't want your opponent to get that Mega Lucario or Mega Altaria onto the playing field because it's probably going to be pretty hard to take out. Outside of that, Is there a Pokemon you want to see a deck built around? Let me know in the comments section and I will build a deck around that Pokemon. This is my first deck built with the new packs that just released. That's right, the Ruler of the Skies packs. But this is a really fun one. Definitely check it out. Let me know in the comment section if you're going to check this one out. What are your Rotom decks? Let's talk about Rotom in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, peace.